Time to pull up a chair. We've got another great story for you today in the rLounge. Today in the rLounge, the only thing thicker than blood is the tension in the air. A cozy abode, once a sanctuary of solace, has transformed into a battleground of bickering and budgeting woes. Sometimes, the only way out of the pickle is to dive right in. Mother-in-law with dementia is getting on my last nerve. My husband, 28 male, and I, 29 female, are in a bit of a pickle with my brother-in-law, husband's brother. To be frank, my mother-in-law is really quite dependent on her sons. A bit of backstory. It's been like this since their dad died. She's lived with us ever since. We have a basement suite and she sticks down there and keeps to herself for the most part until recently. We don't ask her for rent, but she pays $500 in groceries and it manages to cover a bit of the utilities too. She had planned to go see her sister in Toronto last month as she was in the hospital with some serious health problems that they can't figure out what from. My husband was supposed to drive her to the airport, and it's an hour drive there and an hour drive back. Unfortunately, they missed the flight because of a snowstorm. The flight ended up canceled anyways because of the weather. For whatever reason, my mother-in-law couldn't figure out how to get the ticket reimbursed. We didn't want to handhold her through it, so she ended up losing $800 in a ticket and now has to buy a new ticket to Toronto. But prices have now gone up. So she's looking at $1,300 in round-trip flights to Toronto. Well, my mother-in-law doesn't have $1,300. So my husband has already discussed splitting the cost with his brother. But we are all struggling financially, and it's just not sustainable for us to continue living with her. She is constantly throwing out good food or leaving the milk out so it goes bad, but I don't notice until it's too late. She's wasted probably $200 worth of groceries almost every month from the last 5 months, and whenever I say something, she gets defensive. For one, she spit in my face on more than one occasion. I texted my husband and he didn't really do anything, and he said that I must have said something that really pissed her off. I had chicken thighs in the fridge and they were marinating for dinner one day, and when I went to prepare them for dinner, I found they were gone. Well, it was only me and her there, so I asked her if she had taken them out of the fridge, and she straight up told me she threw them out. I said, "What?" And then I told her they were there for dinner, and she said that they had been in there for a week and they were bad. I said I just bought them yesterday, and they were marinating overnight for dinner today. Then she literally goes off on how I'm an ungrateful witch and a spoiled brat, and my husband should have never married me. I told her she should get the hell out of the house if she thinks that, because it's not even her house and she has no right to speak to me this way. Then she said that it's not my house either, it's my husband's. I just stood there dumbfounded, like couldn't even believe what had just happened. Then she left the kitchen and went to her room. My husband texted me soon after and he asked what just happened and what I said to his mom. I called him because I didn't want to have a fight over text, and I tried to tell him what happened, but he said I shouldn't be treating his mother like that. I asked her to watch our daughter because I had to go check the mailbox and it was too rainy to take her with me, and it would be literally by like 5 minutes. Mother-in-law had been good with her up until this point and had been asking to hold her more and to help out more, so I figured why not. But when I came back in, she was getting all angry with my daughter, like full on yelling at her. And my poor baby is just laying there on the floor crying, and honestly, looked like she was going to get aggressive with her and hit her. So I ran right in and picked her up, and mother-in-law just walked away mumbling to herself. That was the end of having her alone with my baby. After that, I left to my mom's and told my husband what happened, and he asked her what the hell was going on and said that he doesn't want to act like a tyrant when he gets home. I told him I was staying with my mom until he got home. When he got home, I came back, but my mother-in-law told him that she didn't trust me and thought that I was trying to get rid of her. She even went so far as saying I was poisoning her food and that's why she wasn't eating. When my husband and I were laying in bed, he told me all of this and had the audacity to ask if something was wrong between the two of us. I just expressed that I thought there was just too much feminine energy in the house and we'd been getting on each other's nerves. But I said something felt off with her because of the way she was acting with our daughter. She wasn't safe around her. I told him it was either her or me and our daughter. But what she did to our daughter was the last straw for him, but he could have cared less about what she said to me. And honestly, I didn't grow up in the best household. I've been called every name under the sun, so I can handle her, but I'm not going to subject my daughter to that evil witch. So now my husband wants to rent a room for her, but in this economy, I don't think so. That would be $1,500 for a one-bedroom apartment in the city, and she doesn't drive, so it would just be us going out of our way to drive her places. When we talked to my brother-in-law, he says he can't afford it. Being a single guy, he's sort of struggling to make ends meet. He's a graphic designer, so makes decent cash, but like nothing extraordinary, and he hardly has any savings, but we don't want him to touch that. I'm also on maternity leave and only get 55% of my salary now. That's $745 every 2 weeks. We all are struggling, and been trying to get a bigger house for a little bit now, but it's super difficult with the house prices and the interest rates. Now I'm almost at a point where I'm okay to dip into our savings to get her a room somewhere if we were to split with my brother-in-law, just because I legit need this witch out of my house. But he's saying he can't afford it. He has a 2-bedroom condo right now, so I suggested that mother-in-law goes to live with him for a bit, just so we all get a little break from each other, and that $500 can go towards brother-in-law's bills because it's less mouths to feed too. But he doesn't want to. He also said it would hinder him in the dating scene. He said, "How am I going to bring a date back home if everything goes well? I'll have to call mom and tell her to stay in her room and be quiet and pretend she's not there." The brothers always paid everything for her together since their father died, but my husband works away from home and leaves me and our baby with her. So I'm the one that's stuck with her day to day. The classic family conundrum: how to politely evict your mother-in-law without causing a World War III in the living room. It's like a real-life game of Monopoly, except instead of passing go and collecting $200, you're dodging passive-aggressive comments and collecting stress-induced ulcers. As for your brother-in-law's dating woes, well, let's just say that having Mommy Dearest lurking in the background isn't exactly a panty dropper. But hey, if he's that worried about his love life, maybe he should invest in some noise-canceling headphones and a Do Not Disturb sign. After all, desperate times call for desperate measures, and nothing says romance like pretending your mother isn't the next room over. So is it okay that you want her to leave? Absolutely. Are you wrong? Not in the slightest. So go ahead, kick her out, reclaim your sanity, and bask in the sweet, sweet silence of an empty basement suite. You deserve it. And hey, maybe even rent that basement suite out to someone who's willing to pay for it. Update. It's been a few months since I posted. We took matters into our own hands, and after many discussions, negotiations, and maybe even a therapy session, okay, not really, but it felt like it, we came up with a Band-Aid solution. We did the old switcheroo. That's right, we swapped living arrangements. My brother-in-law reluctantly agreed to take in my mother-in-law for a trial period. My husband actually advocated for me here. When he got home from work, I had some tough conversations with him about where I was at with his mother. It was to the point where his mother was nitpicking everything I did. She asked me to clean her bathroom. She even went so far as to blame me for things going missing and accuse me of stealing money from her. My husband knew that I was at my wit's end and ready to leave. She wasn't too happy at first, like not happy at all. She blamed it all on me at first and told my husband that I was just trying to get rid of her like old trash. But it had to happen. Tensions were rising. I heard her say, "That dang baby won't shut up," or "That gosh darn baby." I asked her if she had a problem, and she actually said, "If you don't shut that baby up, I will." And well, that was that. Brother-in-law took her in. That happened for a few months until we realized that her memory was going and all of her aggression problems were probably due to that. He said she was wandering in his condominium complex and couldn't remember where she was or why she was there, and she was getting really frustrated with people who would approach her. She actually slapped one lady, but the lady didn't press charges because my brother begged the woman, like literally on his knees, and gave her some big BS sob story that he has to take care of her, and she's not doing well with the stress of her husband dying, even though he died years before. My husband took her to the doctor because his brother said something was off, and sure enough, she had failed whatever tests they do for memory. The doctor says that she has early onset dementia. He said this explains her irritability and her accusations towards me. Well, my husband took this as a, she needs us now more than ever, and his brother isn't equipped to take care of her, so he told her she could move back in with us. I said if she's coming back, me and my daughter are out of there. The plot thickens. Turns out your mother-in-law's memory was playing hide and seek with her, and her aggression was just her brain's way of saying, "Hey, I'm not quite myself today." Early onset dementia, huh? Well, ain't that a plot twist straight out of a psychological thriller? And just when you thought you might catch a break, your husband decides she needs to move back in because, well, who doesn't love a challenge? Update. I followed your advice and grew a spine. A little late, yeah, but I'm gone now. Thank you for the harsh truth, everyone. Husband decided to move his mom back in, and so I moved out, and I'm staying with my mom indefinitely. And my mom served my soon-to-be ex with the papers. We're getting a divorce. After that brief update, we've got one lengthy comment. I completely understand what you're going through. My mother-in-law has dementia and moved in with us while I was pregnant, which caused a lot of stress on our marriage. And it was one of the hardest times of my life. My husband thought it would be a good idea for his mom to move in and help out after her husband died, but I quickly realized it was just so we could take care of her. Her dementia isn't severe yet, but she has short-term memory loss and needs help with tasks like laundry and cooking and basic financial things. My husband works from home, and I am a stay-at-home mom, but now we also have to take care of his mom on top of our 2 dogs. It got so bad that The stress of it all caused me to go on bed rest for the last month of pregnancy. This meant my husband had to spread his attention from me to his mom to work during the day, as I couldn't get up from bed. I could feel him starting to resent his mom, and at one point, I felt it directed to me too. Well, when our daughter finally decided to bless us with her presence, I'm finding my patience is running thin towards my mother-in-law. I ended up getting an emergency C-section, and she wants to help, but she can't change diapers, feed the baby. She has back problems, so holding her for too long causes her pain and back spasms, and she can't really cook food for us. When I was taking a shower, I left my daughter in her care. She was 3 months at the time. She started crying, and my mother-in-law thought she was hungry, so she tried to feed her porridge. Well, it's a miracle my daughter didn't choke to death. My mother-in-law claimed it was only a little bit and seemed really innocent about it, but I think she got the hint that I wasn't too happy with her. My husband had to take care of that one because I wasn't comfortable reprimanding my mother-in-law given her dementia. This might turn into a crazy rant, but I'm just so irritated and burnt out having my mother-in-law here. I can hardly speak to her, and I get annoyed when she tries to help with my daughter. I feel like such an a-hole, but my resentment is so strong because of how much stress she has caused me. It's also a huge wedge in my marriage because my husband is extremely stressed out by her too. But I know that he feels bad because he feels the need to help her since it's his mother after all. Given all the stress, my husband and I had a huge blow up. He said that mother-in-law wants to move back in with his brother and his wife because I have made her feel so unwelcome. So I know how you feel, OP. I told him he hasn't helped in this situation. I told him he should look in the mirror because he's constantly scolded her and raised his voice at her all the time for the littlest of things, and he makes me look like a saint. I have never yelled at her once or ever controlled her because that's just not something I would do. 1, she's not my mother, and 2, she has dementia, so it would be like trying to yell at a child who doesn't understand up from down. So now I'm the bad guy. But I've gone to live with my sister. At least I'm out of there. They can have each other. Moving out, staying with mom indefinitely, and filing for divorce? Talk about a power move. As for the divorce, well, they say diamonds are a girl's best friend, but sometimes a fresh start is even shinier. Here's to waving goodbye to in-law drama and hello to a future where the only mother-in-law you have to deal with is Netflix asking if you're still watching. Thanks for joining us today. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and click that notification bell before you leave. We'd love to hear your thoughts on today's topic, so feel free to leave a comment. See you next time in the rLounge.